Welcome in this how-to. In this how-to we're gonna look at how we can take the approach and land at Sankt-Petersburg Airport using the A320 Annex add-on. As you can see in the 8C we just got approval to take the approach. So let's set it up, and to do that we need to press the button next to the destination airport, check arrival. Then using the up arrow find the runway, in this case 28 Lima Yankee, and then the tower or the 8C told us to use the transition Obari, so we need to select Vias on the approach and then select Obari and then click insert. So now one nasty thing will happen, so let me show that on the map. So what will happen now is, since we have added the approach, the airport will fly back to Obana and then go back to Obari. Currently there's no way to remove the waypoint, right? What you would normally do is you press the clear button, which is here, and you will see clear here, and you will be able to clear the waypoint here. But currently that's not possible in the A320 Annex add-on. For example, in the working title CG4 it's an option. You can see, if you look at the top of the screen, there's a link to that video how to do that. But unfortunately it's not working yet for the A321 Annex. So we need to wait now, because the airport will make some turns. And then we'll first fly back to Obari, and then we'll fly to the next waypoint, which is we'll first fly back to Obana, and then we'll fly back to Obari. So kind of a detour, but currently there's not really a solution for it. Other than the thing I could think of is that you would configure the approach earlier, but that sometimes is hard, because approach or the 8C will tell you mostly when you're almost at, I would say, the point of making the right turns to the runway. Will tell you which runway you can use, right? So in this case it told us 42 miles southwest from the airport. It told us, hey, you need to select the runway 28 Lima. But yeah, no problem. The autopilot will take care of it. But yeah, it's not really idle, because now we first need to fly back. In the meantime, what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask for the weather, and to do that we need to press the MCDU menu, then go to the ATSU, then the AOC menu, and then we can press the weather request. Now you can see that Amsterdam Airport is still in, but since we're not interested anymore, we are clearing that from the list if possible. No, there's also an issue with that, so we will leave both in them. And then we will ask for the meteor information, right, which is the weather which is currently predicted for the destination airport. So we're gonna press send, and then once it has confirmed that it has sent, within a few minutes you should get a new message in the messages received box, right? So you can check. Currently there's no message, but give it a few minutes. That's one of the things we need to know. And the other thing what you can do is you can request, or you can tune in to the ATIS, and that's what we're gonna do after this, after receiving this message, because the ATIS will provide us information about the wind and about the temperature, although the meter information also shows it, but sometimes in a, I would say, in a format which is hard to read and hard to understand. So that's why I sometimes also tune into the ATIS, because it's a little bit easier. So let's see if we already have the message. So you can see, let me zoom in a bit. So we've already have the information from METAR, so we're gonna look at that. So we get the one from Amsterdam, but we're not interested in that one. The one which we're interested in is the one from Uniform Lima India, which is Sankt-Petersburg Airport. So what does it tell us? It tells the time, it tells us the MPS, so the what is it, miles per second, I think. I'm not 100% sure about that. We'll give some information about the wind and the direction. will give us some other information about the sector and about the clouds. So it's broken clouds at 3600 if I'm correct. And here's the Q number. And the Q number is interesting because that's the one we need to program the MCDU. So 1023. So we're going to go to the perf menu, then go to next, and then to the approach phase. And here you can type in the numbers. So I need to zoom in out a bit. So 1, 2, 3. Then we can press it, and then it will program the value here. As soon as you program the values, you will see other values being populated, like the approach speed, etc. So that's really handy. You can see that the ILS approach has already been configured, right? ILS 28 left. With the flaps retracted, you will probably need to come in with a speed of 152, right? So keep in mind that you still need to do flaps to say decrease the speed. Temperature and the wind and the direction, as mentioned, I will get them from the ATIS. And where can you find the ATIS frequency? Well, that's pretty easy. There's a site which you probably know that's called SkyVector. Again, look at the top of my screen if you don't know it, because there's another video about SkyVector, and that helps you to get the radio frequencies for the airports. So based on the SkyVector, I looked up the airport and I found that St. Petersburg ATIS, or Pulkovo ATIS as they call it, is 127.30. So to program that one and to make sure that we're not losing contact with ATC, you can press the VHF 2, and then you can use the buttons here to change the radio frequency, right? So we're gonna change it to 127, and then it was 330. Press this one, and then it will set it to active, and it will still stay here on COM2. Hey, it's not in use. But don't be afraid. Once we're close to the airport, it will pick it up, and it will start telling us the information which we're searching for. So for now we can I would say sit back and relax, right? The airplane is correctly configured, so the autopilot is still being set. This one is the ILS information. We don't need it yet because we're not close to the airport. Once we're close to the airport, we are switching on the ILS information to see, okay, how's the are we on the correct light scope, and you've got the options here to change the rows of the nav, right? So if we change it to this, once ILS has been picked up, we will get some more information here, so I will show it. But for now we will leave it either to ARC or to nav, or you can show to plan, sorry, whatever you prefer. So now we're gonna make the turn, right? So we're gonna make the turn and then fly to the waypoint. And the other option we're gonna use, right, when taking the approach is this one, the approach mode, because the approach mode will try to capture the glide scope so that the aircraft follows the glide scope and runs smoothly on the runway. But for now we're all good, we don't need to do anything. Let me check how far we are from the air. So you can see we're now here, and then we'll go to Obari. Right? So if we open the VFR view, we need to check this one. You can see we're making some large turn, and then we will continue our flight. So what can you see on the flight plan, right? So what you can see the different times. So these are the expected times. So the expected time of arrival is 1818 UTC. Probably will be a little bit later because we needed to, let's say, fly back and then continue our flight on the flight plan. So what you've seen is once we selected the arrival, right, the correct runway and approach, there's added some additional waypoints in here. Those are required to make the correct approach to the runway. So is there something else we can do? Well, not right now. As you can see, it's pretty dark. So all the lights are, all the required lights are switched on. Something you need to keep in mind, right? If you're close to the airport, don't forget to switch on the additional lights. Those can be found here. We've got the runway and the landing lights and the taxi lights, which you can switch on. Will make it easier to navigate also on the runway itself. But for now we will leave them off. In the meantime, I'm gonna check some stuff here. Plenty of fuel. And if you want to follow the official checklist, you can always open a checklist, right? So we're currently at the prepare descent, so these are all the checks which you can do. You can continue with the rest of the list, so speed brakes, etc. Right? So we can set the speed brakes to, I would say, decrease the speed. And so the speed brakes are here. So currently they're not set, they're set to 0. But if you want to decrease speed easier, or let's say, should say if you go too fast, then you can also always use the speed brake to decrease speed a little bit more. And here, these are the settings which you can set at 10,000 feet, right? So currently we're at 7,000 because it was I saved the game and then I restored, or I loaded the game and then it instructed me to go to 7,000 feet. It's always weird, right? Probably you're aware of that when you're saving a game and then when you're continuing it afterwards, you have got some weird things. So let's switch on the landing lights. Then you can continue right with the rest of the stuff, right? So you can set the make sure that the seat belts are set, make sure that the approach is set, monitor the stuff, ground spoilers, right? The ground spoilers can be found here, are armed, and here kicks in the ATIS. So temperature is -16. It's pretty cold. And we missed the wind, right? So the winds, the AC already provided us that information. But let's wait until the person reports again.
Pulkovo Airport information, Echo 18000. Wind 35, 4 and 31. Visibility
So it's 354, 354, that's 31. So that's good. The transalt, yeah, you can configure it. Makes it sometimes easier, but for now I just leave it as is. You can put in 7,000. Right, so. And the other options are the MDA and DH. I'm not 100% sure what they are used for, but I don't think you need to use them, if I'm correct. It's something which is on my list to figure out where they are used for. So if you're fed up about the ATIS, then you can tune into the 8C again from St. Petersburg, and then you will get a text here. But at least I would say the sound will stop, so you don't need to pay any attention anymore. So approach has been set, right? The perf has been set, so we know the approach speed 137, so we need to keep an eye on that. That's all fine. So we can go back to the flight plan. If we would look at the VFR map, we're first going to approach to Obari and then make some turns and then land hopefully successfully on St. Petersburg. And if you want, you can still ask for the last weather information, right? So you can go to the MCDU menu again, ATSU, AOC, and then you can select the weather request and simply press send. They will give you the latest weather information. So what's the rest on the approach list? Weather, radar. And this is the stuff right for the final approach. Autopilot 1+2 engaged. Approach button selected. Flaps on 1. That's something we're gonna do when we're a little bit closer. Go around. That's something you can also check, right? When you're pressing the perf button, then when you're going to the phases, you've got the go around, which allows you to configure the go around. Here you can configure the maximum throttle. For now we will leave it as is. You need to dive in some books what the correct values are. And this also shows you how you can configure the next phases, right? So here's where we're simply navigating to the different phases, but once we're at the approach, you can press the activate approach phase, and then it will, let's say, apply the values which we configured on the approach page. But for now, let's leave it. So let's have a look at the flight plan, where we are. So we're going to Obari. When we look at the at this screen, right, so we can see how far we are. So we're 25 miles from Obari. So once we're at this one, which is called which is shown as the decel, right? So if we press the V, you can see the decel point. Then you can activate the approach. If I understood everything correctly on the documentation. So then you can press it and then it will go to approach mode. So it will also reduce speed, etc. And then once we're at this position, we're also gonna apply the rest of the configuration, which is set here. Right, so gonna make sure that the ground spoilers are set, and manage speed is set and checked. There's also what they say you need to activate it. So for now we can sit back and relax a bit. You see, it's pretty cloudy, it's pretty dark outside, right? So can't see a lot. Everybody's sitting and relaxing in the airplane. And if you want to increase the or decrease the range, you can press these buttons, right? Probably you're aware of that, so you can increase or decrease the range. Sometimes when I'm getting closer to the airport, I'm changing it so I can look closer at it. So let's start with this. So I'm gonna simply check it, right? Seatbelt signs. You can either go to the top, but there's also a handy screen in the center of the airplane, and there you will be able to see, okay, if the seatbelt sign has been switched on, and also if the ground spoilers. That's where is it? Here. If those have been switched on, right? So you don't have to, I would say, zoom into every single component. You can also see it from this screen, but it's always good to check it manually, of course. And this is something we need to do manually, right? So we're almost there. You hear that the airplane is already reducing. You can see the engines, right? Just when I was talking about it, you can see that it reduces things. So here it says we need to decrease altitude, so let's do that.
Descend and maintain 2,500 feet, Airbus A320.
So we need to change this one to change it to the 100 values. We'll press the manage altitude button. So keep in mind that if you think that you're going too slow, which sometimes is the case, you can either switch to the selected altitude mode, or you can use the virtual speed mode to, say, dive a little bit deeper. So what we're currently gonna do is we're gonna drop the flaps based on the checklist. So this is a checklist, right? So we're gonna make sure that the ground spoilers are armed. So let's follow the checklist for now.
Airbus 320, please expedite your descent to
So here it says
2,500
already.
feet.
So HC is not happy with the progress we're making. So in that case, what you can do is you can change the value a bit here to, let's say, 1,500 feet or something. And then you can say engage vertical speed, and then it will decrease, so go further down, and then it will at least come closer to the let's say, requested altitude. In addition to that, we're gonna look at the manage speed, which is currently set to, and if you hover over it, you can see it. See 218, but we're not gonna change it because it's already decreased and it's already going too fast. Ground spoilers, we just checked it right on the screen. It's ground spoilers are armed, but we can also verify it here. Then you could change the tilt of the weather, and then we can continue with the we forgot one thing, sorry, the approach mode. We should have activated it. So go to perf, it's just mentioned, and then in the mode where you currently are, let me see where it is. Oh, you see, it already did it automatically, so that's good. So it automatically switched already to the approach mode, and that's good. So then we don't have to change that piece. And you can do that if you want to if you want to manually activate it, you can. You sometimes see an option here is hey, go to the other mode. So go to, for example, the approach mode. But when the one which is green, that's the one which is active. So we're gonna go to this one, and that's the approach button which we discussed earlier. That's this one. And we're gonna select the ILS one. Whoa. And that can be found here. So let me press the V because I want to make sure. Yes. So that's autopilot 1 and 2 engaged. But you can either only select 1 or 2, you can't select them both. So I'm not sure why it says here 1 plus 2, because you can only activate once. Then we're gonna drop the flaps to position 1, and if we do that, then you will be able to see it. And then we need to decrease speed, because as you can see we're going too fast. So sometimes you need to help the airplane a bit. And that's why it also needs to fly maximum 218, right? That's why. So I'm gonna check. Set to engage mode again. In the meantime, we're gonna look at if it already got the glide scope, which is not the case because these are blue. As soon as they turn green, then we capture the glide scope. So we'll move this one away. In the meantime, we can look at the at this mode, right? If you want, or you can use this. You can decrease the size, or the focus mode, I should say. So let's hide the 8C one. Don't forget to keep an eye on the speed, right? Because you shouldn't go too slow. You can see that it's still trying to capture the ILS, right? So it didn't capture it yet. Approach mode is also not active. Sometimes you need to play around with the auto throttle a bit because it's not always, I would say, taking the accurate speed, as you can see. Here it says, okay, ILS runway 28 left, so that's good. So we're waiting for the airplane to capture the glide scope. So what's also a very good idea, that's also what I sometimes forget to do, is that you need to bring the gears down, right? So we're now passing the 2,000 feet, almost. So once you're there, make sure that you bring down the bring down the landing gear, because if you don't do it, you know what will happen. It will give you all kind of alarms, to be honest, because I had already a few times. So it will warn you, hey, you need to. You're too low, I think altitude too low or something it says, and then you need to adjust it, because else it will not end up very good for you. So if we press Q now, we don't see a lot.
Airbus 320, you are 12 miles southeast of Pulkovo. Contact Pulkovo Tower on 118.11 inbound on the approach.
So we're gonna accept it, and in the meantime,
Tower on 118.1
you can see that the localizer is now turned to green.
Pulkovo Tower, Airbus Alpha Sierra X-ray 320,
Here's
11
runway.
miles southeast inbound ILS Yankee runway 28 left approach.
acknowledge the pattern. So
Cleared
it's
ILS
almost there in the
Yankee
middle,
runway
right? You can
28
see.
left, approach Airbus tray 20.
So it should start capturing the. Here it is. You saw it. It directly kicked in. So this is also the time that we need to keep an eye on the gears. So let's bring down the gears. What was the other action? You remember it? If not, use the checklist. It says, okay, go to flaps 2. So decrease speed a bit.
Airbus 320 cleared to land runway 28 left. Wind 340 entry.
Cleared to land runway 28 left, Airbus tray 20.
So you can see that we're decreasing the speed, right? So we're almost at the this one, the F, which stands for the flap speed. So we're going a little bit too fast even. So we're gonna decrease it a little bit further. And you can see that it pretty correctly takes up the glide scopes, right? So we're a little bit. Let me think. I think it's below it, or we're pretty good. Because you can see here the poppy lights blinking or showing up. And then let the aircraft do its work. So we're closing the checklist. Don't be distracted. The other thing you need to check sometimes is if the wheels are down, but those are down, right? So we can see it. So those are good.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain.
This is the message I was
Too
talking
low,
about.
terrain.
But you can see it
Too
has
low,
now switched to
terrain.
landing mode.
Too low,
So let
terrain.
the
Too low, terrain.
let the
Too
airplane
low,
do its stuff.
terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too
You can
low,
see that
terrain.
we're not following the glide slope
low,
100%,
terrain.
right? So
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain.
and if you want to
Too low,
take a
terrain.
corrective action, you can do it.
20. Retard.
Switch off the.
Retard.
So it says flare, flare, flare.
5.
So we're gonna decrease speed. And here we are. So welcome in St. Petersburg. I think the landing went pretty smoothly, to be honest. If I need to put myself on the shoulder. I've been on nastier landing, or approaches I should say. So in this video we looked at several options or several features which you can use to program the MCDU to make sure that you can make a safe landing. Hope you like this video. If you like this video, then consider to use the like button. If you've got questions, then feel free to post them in the comment box below the video.
Going to 120.9
And if you'd like to see more of these videos or want to stay up to date about new videos being posted, then consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time. For those who still want to watch, right? Small demo of how to drive to the gates, but this is a really small one.
Pulkovo ground Airbus Alpha Sierra X-ray 320 request taxi to the gate.
Airbus Alpha Sierra X-ray 320 taxi to gate 73 using taxiway Alpha.
Taxi taxiing to gate 7 treat by taxiway Alpha Airbus A320.
Always using the help functionality to find the correct gate or parking spot. In the meantime, we're gonna retract the flaps. Don't drive too fast, right? I switched off the help functionalities, but you shouldn't cross a certain speed at the airport, which I think is something around 30 knots or something. Especially when making turns. So there's the traffic tower, and there's a gate 7-3, which is the gate which we are assigned, or which has been assigned to us. So we're gonna make some turns. Sometimes I'm taking some detours because sometimes the corners are really nasty. Decrease speed, and now comes the most difficult part. Seeing the person in front of the people, or in front of the airport, waving how much you need to come forward. So sometimes you need to, what I sometimes do is do a little bit of trick, right? And so it still wants us to come forward. So let me go a little bit more. First have a look. What does she want? Or he want? Oh, I think they're happy. So we're gonna put on the parking brakes. And then you can, of course, use the ground services, right? You can call the jetway.
Pulkovo ground Airbus Alpha Sierra X-ray 320. Could you please connect the jetway to the aircraft?
I think we're a little bit too far to the front, maybe. Oh. Well, might be that this one could connect. In some situations you see that it can't connect, right? So we're gonna request the baggage. Oh yes, it could connect. Cool. Baggage.
Pulkovo ground Airbus Alpha Sierra X-ray 320.
Then we can switch off the seatbelt and smoking sign. So
Airbus Alpha Sierra X-ray 320 baggage is on the way.
switch off the de-icing, and if you want you can also switch off the engines, right? So you can move to external power and then go to the engines which are here, switch them off, which is displayed here, so you can see the engines are switching off. All the electronic equipment can be switched off. There's no autopilot functionality needed anymore. You can see that the cabin door and the cargo door are already open, so they're unloading the baggage. And to end this flight you need to switch off the power, so you can switch off the batteries. Let's also switch off the fuel pumps, of course, and also switch off the power, and then you're done. So again, thanks for watching this video. In this video we looked at how we can take the approach and the landing using an A320 NX, using the A320 NX add-on. As you could see, there's still some work to be done, because you can't remove waypoints once you configure the approach. But that's not, I would say, a real big issue, to be honest. We went to the checklists, we went to the options how you could retrieve the weather, find the ATIS information. So I hope you liked it. Again, if you liked the video, consider to use the like button. If you have questions or have comments, then use the comment box below the video. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, believe me, there will come some new videos because this week it's World Update number 3 time. If they don't delay it again. Then subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.